Welcome to Operation Retirement Readiness, where Amy and Mike, two certified financial planners, talk about how military members can prepare for transition and how veterans can prepare for ultimate retirement. This podcast represents the views of the hosts and any guest. It is for informational purposes only and should not be considered tax, financial, or legal advice. All information is regarded to be from reliable sources. The hosts are not responsible for any losses, damages, or liabilities that may arise from the use of this podcast. This podcast is not intended to replace professional advice.
Hey, Mike, it's good to see you back. So we're a little bit into the new year now. How's the gym census looking?
Still busy. I expect probably a couple more weeks, hopefully not months, but yeah, it'll eventually drop off. But right now, people still seem to be holding on to that New Year's resolution of getting in shape.
Yeah, a lot of people kind of sort of stick it out through the month of January, but then drop off after that because, resolutions are just hard to stick to, whether it's a fitness resolution or something else.
Yeah, I was looking up some stats and it says that 23% supposedly drop after the first week of their resolution, and 43% end up dropping by the end of January, and really only about 9 to 12% actually kind of stick through and either make it an ongoing new habit or get through the year. So it's not looking too good if you don't really have a good plan for how you're going to tackle that resolution.
Yeah, I guess I'm surprised that the people who stick it out, it's as high as 9 to 12%. That's a little bit surprising to me. But you're right, having a plan is probably what helps make those people successful.
Yeah, exactly. So last week we talked about some of the common things that are out there that people make resolutions about on the financial side. And this week we wanted to talk about some of the uncommon ones that people should be thinking about, but maybe isn't high enough in their mind to make it an actual resolution. So, uh, Amy, what's one thing that folks should be thinking about as they approach either military retirement or ultimate retirement and get ready for that big transition?
Yeah. So I think that probably the thing that people spend maybe the least time thinking about as they prepare for retirement, and if you're listening to a podcast called Operation Retirement Readiness, you're probably interested in this, but I meet a lot of people who are very excited to leave what they're doing, whether to leave the military behind or their civilian job behind and have, a different life. They spend a lot of time thinking about all the reasons they want to leave. They don't spend a lot of time thinking about what they want the next chapter to look like. Um, and quite honestly, I mean, that's where all plans begin, right? You start with the end in mind. That's the ideal, so that you know where you want to get to. And it's exactly the same when you're planning retirement. What do you want retirement to look like? It's not enough to just say, I really want to be done with the military. I can't wait to, sometimes people go as far as, I can't wait to move back home to pick the place that home is, or I can't wait to move to the beach or do whatever. But they don't really fill out what the day looks like. What's a day in the life look like? And really put purpose behind their retirement years. And I've worked with a lot of clients over the last several years, and many of them well into their 70s, 80s, and 90s. And the clients who were the most healthy and the happiest in retirement were those that were driven by a purpose. They were busy all the time. They were having fun doing what they were doing, and the things they were doing had purpose behind it for them. And my clients who, spent a lot of time doing nothing, or, just kind of grinding through the day to day of life, cooking dinner, going grocery shopping, the normal stuff, they were a lot less happy and a lot less healthy. So this is a critical thing that people should be spending time on, even if it doesn't seem obvious.
Yeah, I agree. I've always heard the statement you need to retire to something, not just from something. And it's important. You look at any of the research, like you said, the people that are happiest and healthiest had that other thing that they were passionate about. And a lot of times people are like, oh, it's the cliche one is I'm going to go golf every day type thing. But honestly, in some ways that can get old. I mean, unless you are, that's a small percentage of folks typically. So you want to have some varied things that you like to do that you can do regularly. Having friends and that support network is incredibly important as you make either of these transitions, because yeah, it can be difficult, especially if you've done something for 20 plus, or if you were civilian 30, 35 plus years and cut it off cold turkey. That can be hard. So yeah, having that, thinking about it, and maybe even trying a dry run of some type. Can you take extended leave? Can you slowly ramp down through, maybe part-time work or something else, consulting that you can do, a little bit at a time, and just transition slowly is incredibly important.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I think since both of us have quite a lot to say about this particular sort of introduction, it'll be good when we get a chance later to dive more into this. Of course, being planners at heart, we're very interested in starting with the end in mind, but it's just so critical. It makes such a big difference to everyone's life. So looking forward to digging more into it. But for now, Mike, what's another uncommon um, thing that financial resolution that people should be considering?
One of the big things, especially as you're approaching either of these transitions, is life insurance. If you're in the military right now, you're covered by, typically SGLI if you've opted in for that. Survivor benefit plan, which is really kind of a decision point at retirement, but you're actually covered by that same kind of program while you're in. So if something happened to the military member, the family would be taken care of and get that money coming in. So understanding all of that, there are options. There's the Veterans Group life insurance as you transition, but just taking a holistic look at what is your need for life insurance during the transition and after the transition. It also applies at retirement. Maybe you have a policy that you don't need anymore, because you've got enough saved up, you've got enough income that you've earmarked for this, and you can take care of it without that life insurance. And then other times in retirement, you may want to actually add life insurance. It could be a good estate planning tool where if you are, planning to leave money to your children, that, they life insurance can be a way to do that. So just taking an assessment of what you have, what you need, determining who relies on any kind of income, if it's a pension or something like that, and if something happened to that person, would somebody else who relies on their income be taken care of?
Yeah, I mean it's a hard topic to think about. So I think sometimes people try to avoid it. It's also insurance tends to be one of those things that's a little bit mystical and hard to understand sometimes. There's different products out there and hard to understand which is better, and then you've got, people driven by different motivations in talking about those products. So it's hard to know who to trust and what advice to trust. So I think sometimes this one gets overlooked because it might fall into the too hard to do category. Um,
Exactly.
and, and along those lines, one of the other resolutions that's sort of uncommon financial resolutions that people should be thinking about is along the same lines. You mentioned it, estate planning. So when people hear estate planning, some people might think that, that's for wealthy people. I don't have a lot of money. I don't have a lot of assets. I don't need to worry about it. Or I'm by myself. I don't need to worry about it. But the fact of the matter is, just like if you were, on active duty or in the reserves and you were preparing for deployment, you had to go to JAG, you had to get a will. And there's a reason for that. It's because it helps your loved ones out. It's not for you, it's for your loved ones. It helps your loved ones out in making things a little bit more clear on what you wanted to have happen, and can make the process faster and smoother for your loved ones. So as you transition into retirement, it's key to remember that, wills are governed at the state level. They're not federal. So if you move from one state to another state, there might be a reason that you need to update your will so that it takes into account state-specific considerations for where you move to. If you get married, if you have a child, if you get divorced or a spouse passes away, or your executor passes away, you need to make updates. So the bottom line takeaway is that this is, your will and your other estate planning documents like powers of attorney and advanced directives and things like that. They're not set it and forget it. At least every couple years, and when you've experienced a big life change, you need to revalidate that your will still applies and is in good shape. And if it's not, then you can Google legal assistance for your closest military installation. So if you're retiring with a pension, you're still entitled to use military legal assistance office to help get your will together. In certain situations, the legal assistance office may not be equipped to handle your needs. They will let you know, and then maybe even be able to provide you with at least the type of estate planning attorney that you would be looking for out in the private sector.
Yeah, it's incredibly important. You hear the kind of horror stories of folks, whether on active duty or after active duty or after being in the military, that don't have a will, and something happens and it just can be a whole lot more time consuming, expensive. All of that can just be such, a challenge that it's important to just check it every couple years, or when you've got that big life change that you talked about, to make sure you're still covered. So
Yeah, exactly. And Mike, I think the next one that you're about to talk about is huge for transitions as well, especially the retirement transition.
your health insurance, vision, dental, as you either transition into retirement, again, applicable to both military transitions and overall retirement as you start looking ahead to Medicare. So for military retirement, you're still going to get TRICARE. That's still an option. And if you're working a second job, you may get additional options there for your, you and your family, through a civilian workplace. So you want to be aware of that. You're going to need to look. You used to get your vision and dental all done through the military for the member, and now you're going to need to typically go to the benefits program, which offers dental and vision and insurance. So, making sure that you have the coverage you need. There's numerous options that you probably never dealt with before. So, at transition, you're kind of given that option. And then each year, late, mid November through December is typically the open enrollment period for all those services. So making sure if you need to make a change, you're aware of that and when you can do it. So there's a lot to think about around making sure you have the right coverage, and understanding that now you're going to have to pay for vision and dental for you as well as your family. And then when you're looking ahead to ultimate retirement, at 65, you have the Medicare transition, and just making sure you're aware of that and the decisions that entails. Now, if you're military retiree, you'll have TRICARE for life at that point. So that's kind of a supplement to Medicare. You still need to enroll in Medicare, but TRICARE for life will cover some of the additional expenses that Medicare doesn't. So making sure you're aware of that. And then again, if you've got a gap between maybe you retire early in your early 60s, military retirees will be covered through TRICARE at that point. But if you know separated and are just a veteran, you need to understand how you're going to have health care before you're eligible for Medicare. So, and that oftentimes can be a pretty significant expense for folks if they retire early. So factoring that into your budget is critical.
And it's intimidating. I mean, even though I had already, been through the certified financial planner curriculum, passed the exam, when I retired, and I really enjoy this stuff. So I had been doing my homework for years and years and years. Even with that, the decisions around what kind of TRICARE I wanted to select for my family, picking one of the 100 dental plans or however many there are, and then same with the vision plans. Like, how do you pick these things? It was a very intimidating process. It was also difficult to understand exactly what the timeline needed to be, so that we didn't have, a lapse in coverage. And whether you're retiring from the military or retiring from a private sector job, this can be equally intimidating. Maybe even more so if you're transitioning from a civilian job. Some employers will allow you to take coverage into retirement. Many do not. So, being really careful about understanding what you're going to do for healthcare coverage before age 65, before Medicare kicks in, is a really big deal. And the time to think about it isn't, 3 months before you retire. It really is, much further out, so that that you have enough money to fund the retirement lifestyle you want, and make sure that you're covered by the right health insurance.
Yeah, those are all critical things, and you're right. It is. I was looking again the other night, just at the plan and everything for dental, because my daughter needed some dental work, and is there a cap on it for the year, and how does that all work? And so yeah, it's a new for a lot of military folks, it's a new adventure because they haven't really had to deal with that prior to transition. So
Yeah. And the last one that we'll talk about, the last sort of uncommon financial resolution that people really should be thinking about, is probably equally mystical to health insurance and dental insurance, and that's tax planning. I mean, we all file our taxes every single year, which is a little bit, tax planning is a little bit different than filing your taxes. Filing your taxes is what you have to do to stay out of trouble. So it's compliance. And one of the goals when you file your taxes is to make sure that you pay as little as you have to in tax, right? So everything that you have to pay legally, but not a penny more, is sort of the goal there. But looking long term, particularly when you're talking about a military service member, the complexities of tax planning and looking down the road further are really important considerations. The near term consideration as you approach retirement is that, in the military, a large portion of your income is tax free, with your housing allowance, your subsistence, and maybe some other, pay items that might be tax free. So that might be as much as, 25 to 30% of your paycheck. If you plan to retire and get a private sector job, on top of your retirement, you're actually going to jump up, potentially at least one tax bracket, maybe, but you're certainly going to pay more tax overall, because more of your salary is going to be taxed, plus you have your pension on top of it. And as everyone knows, the tax code is complex. So there might be other things that then pile on because you have this additional income. And then looking down later down the road, if you've done a good job saving and you have a pension, there's these things called required minimum distributions that happen sometime in your 70s, sometime between 73, 75, depending on your age. You have to take money out of your 401k, and that money, if you have to take it out, is all taxable income. So if it went in pre-tax, it's got to come out, and you have to pay tax on it. And what we see a lot of times is that folks with pensions who did a good job saving, and maybe they did a good job saving pre-tax rather than using Roth, they end up in the highest tax bracket of their lives in their 70s and 80s and 90s. But that's not a foregone conclusion. You can there's options that you might have that fit into your overall financial picture. And so why not choose to pay taxes when your tax rate's a little bit lower? And then the last consideration around taxes, moving back to the near term, is if you're going to retire and move, if you're military, there's a good chance that you haven't been paying state tax at all. Even if you have been paying state tax and you move, the new state might have a different tax structure. So that might be to your benefit, or not. So it's a good idea to plan out ahead of time and just know whether or not you're going to be subject to this additional, 5, 6, 7% tax at the state level.
Yeah, all great points. I mean, like you said, I like the you want to pay the amount you're legally supposed to, but not anymore. And that can be tough, but planning is what's critical, because sometimes people are like, no, I just want to pay the minimum amount this year, and that can be a suboptimal strategy, because you're taking money that you could have used the tax brackets, like you said, to maximum effectiveness, maybe paid a little more, in the near term, or deferred in the near term, and then pay it in the future because you think your income will be lower. So having that plan can save you thousands. I mean, if you look at it, after the military, if you got that second job and the retirement income, you're gonna be, like you said, earning a lot more, and understanding, how to best do that is critically important, because I mean, you can save over a lifetime, probably hundreds of thousands of dollars by having a smart tax plan. So yeah, it's one of the things that I really like to focus on with clients, and making sure they understand that, yeah, we may pay more now, or we may decide, yeah, we're going to pay the taxes later, but having that plan and understanding is critical.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I like what you said, where, it could make hundreds of thousands of dollars of difference. And that's why you spend time with, so much time on it with your clients. And I agree. I actually think that tax planning is, probably, if not number one, then definitely, number two, uh, thing that impacts plans. So taxes are just such a big part of everything. So it deserves quite a bit of attention.
Yeah, completely agree. So this has been great. We've now, over 2 shows, kind of knocked out 10 big financial resolutions that people either commonly think about, or maybe don't think about, but should. So I think now we're going to just maybe do some deeper dives into some of these topics, and talk about really how you go about implementing them, what tools and tricks you can use to stay on track and make sure you actually can achieve that resolution. So I think next week or the next podcast is going to be about savings, which is incredibly important for both a military transition or a retirement, full retirement transition, and making sure you have that money available to live off of when you need it. So look forward to talking about that in our next podcast, Amy.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. It'll be fun to deep dive into these and especially like you said, the savings, because I know that's one of the most common ones that we hear. So I think everybody will get something good out of that.
Great. We'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time. Thanks, Mike. Take care.
Okay.
To get transcripts, show notes, or more information, go to operationretirementreadiness.com. Have a question or topic for the podcast? Send it to info@operationretirementreadiness.com. Find out more about Amy and Mike at their websites. Mike is the founder of Next Mission Financial Planning, LLC. He retired from the U.S. Air Force and has worked in the financial services sector since 2021. He is a certified financial planner, chartered financial consultant, and a certified college financial consultant. You can find out more about Mike at nextmissionfinancialplanning.com. Amy is the founder of Instar Financial Planning, LLC. She is retired from the U.S. Army and has worked in the financial services sector since 2019. She's a certified financial planner, a chartered federal employee benefits counselor, and a chartered retirement planning counselor. You can find out more about Amy at instarfp.com.